Good morning, everyone who's joining us from America, and good evening to everybody who's joining us from this side of the planet, Europe, the Middle East, anywhere else around. And I would like to welcome you all here today for a very special session. And it's also going to be our final Psychreative session for 2022. We will not be having any sessions in December. So this is going to be the last one, and this is going to be a very fun and immersive session. As usual, you're used to having different themes in each and every one of these Psychreative events. Just before we start, I would like to give a little bit of housekeeping, little reminders that we talk about every time. Just make sure that your mics are working if you choose to use them later on with the Q&A. Make sure that you have your Q&A questions ready. We will be having a small discussion session after Florian's talk. You may insert your questions and comments in the chat box, of course, and you may also choose to use the microphone in order to speak directly to the speaker or to answer somebody and discuss it with anyone else who is on board. So again, make sure that the mics are muted during the session in order to avoid any interfering background noises. And the title of today's session is Dream Paradise, Here We Come. And the session is going to be given by none other than Florian. Florian, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Divitschek?
Divitschek, but the short version,
Divitschek.
if you like, Divi.
Divi.
Divitschek.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, I forgot to ask you about that before we started.
No
But
worries.
Florian Divi is someone that you've met during our previous session. He gave a wonderful presentation, which was more like a little taster or teaser before today's big talk. Florian is an active dreaming teacher, as well as a mindfulness of dream and sleep expert with an academic background in visual arts. Florian is born in Austria. He studied oil painting at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna and traditional Japanese painting at Tokyo University of the Arts in Japan. Driven by the question, how to make the invisible visible, Florian involves himself deeply in the art of dream yoga and shamanic dream practices. He developed the method known as dream decoding drawing as a visual approach to unlock subconscious information, helping dreamers to build an intimate relationship with their inner worlds. If he is not traveling to remote corners of this planet, you will most probably find him teaching in Austria, Czech Republic, or online. Through the insightful world of conscious and active dreaming, Florian will help you to dream your life. So without further ado, Florian, I'm going to hand it over to you, and we are all ears.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Rula, for the very beautiful introduction. I'm excited, so I try to calm my nerves by speaking slowly. So please put me on brakes if I'm too fast. So maybe you have seen my presentation last time, but to make sure I have prepared a few more slides this time. It's because I'm a visual person, because of also with my background in the visual arts. So I love to show pictures and make those information in a visual way accessible. Okay, I will start with a screen share. And so let me set, So I will try it one more time. Okay, so this looks better. Okay, dream paradise, here we come. So I hope this is a promising invitation you would like to follow. But of course, first, before you start to go on a journey, wouldn't it be great to set an intention first, what you actually want to do and the motivation why you would like to go there, or what is your motivation, so to speak. So I invite you for a moment, if you like, you can close your eyes, to look inward and see what is your intention actually, and also what is your motivation. If you're having difficulties in making the distinction between intention and motivation, intention is like, I would like to buy a a bread, for example, and my motivation is I would like to feed the pigeons or I would like to feed myself. So those two things are a little bit different. So again, if you maybe close your eyes if you like, and then ask yourself, what is it? What is my intention for today? And what is my motivation? All right. So maybe an answer came, maybe not. Um, the most important thing is that you ask the question. So because we as a group are traveling, I would like to set a group intention, which for today or for tonight is to learn about the practice of lucid dreaming and the motivation to be more awake, more aware, more kind for the benefit of all beings. All right. So I would like to start with the first question. What is a lucid dream? And maybe another question would be, who had a lucid dream? Maybe you can give me a hands up. So to know, okay, I'm guessing there's like half of the audience maybe had a lucid dream. So a lucid dream is a dream where you do know that you are dreaming while asleep. So if you do want to know how a lucid dreamer, how a lucid dreamer looks like, it looks like this. Eyes closed, maybe the mouth a little bit open, and the eyes are moving left and right and up and down because the person is in REM sleep. So, but your prefrontal cortex is activated in a lucid dream, so your self-awareness comes online. So you do know that you are inside your own psyche, inside of your own dream, and you can direct and change to a certain degree your environment. Okay, so why would you actually do that? What is the benefit of a lucid dreaming practice? It's because if I want to bring you on this journey, you know, it's good to know the benefits. Otherwise, you'll say like, okay, paradise, I don't really care. I'm quite happy where I am. So maybe one of the benefits of the dream paradise would be the healing capacity. So I will stop the screen share for a moment so that you can see me better. So that lucid dreaming can help you in an emotional and psychological state. I think that's widely known, but there is a big question at the moment if a lucid dream can actually have physical impact on the body. And Charlie Morley, my dream teacher, he's having he's doing a study right now with PTSD veterans. And what they do, so they already had the first study, now they have a second run, where they will have to spit into a little pipe. The inflammatory markers are measured, then they go to bed, then they try to have a lucid dream and do some healing work inside of the dream. Then they wake up, and then they spit again into this little pipe, and the inflammatory markers are measured again. And the first round was really, really promising. And now they redo the whole thing with, I think, double the amount of participants. So if we are really lucky in 2023, we will have like a scientific proof with, in a scientific paper that this is a possibility. So we'll go back to the screen share again, to the benefits. All right. So then another thing would be imaginary rehearsal. So there is this famous Gestalt therapist in a German-speaking world, Paul Tolle. He's late Paul Tolle, I should say. And he was training in sports. And so he would train his skateboarding, skiing activities while he was asleep in a lucid dream and perfect the practice there without risking himself. So he would do crazy jumps in the lucid dream state so that his body would get to know the feeling, and then in the waking state he would be able to perform the very activity he was training in the lucid dream state. And he was also training other professional sportsmen to do the same. Good. And very interestingly, he started to do some of those sports activities where he became so proficient when he was in his 30s and early 40s, which is very unusual, for a sports career. But he said it was because of the lucid dreaming practice where he did the rehearsal, he was able to develop such a steep sports career. Another benefit of lucid dreaming might be self-inceptions, creating new habits. So, for example, maybe let's say you are addicted or you do have the habit of smoking. In a lucid dream, you maybe could invite a personification of your addiction, let's say this being addicted to smoking addiction in front of you and having a conversation, making a deal, or talking with your brain or whatever you believe is connected with the addiction, and find a solution together. Actually, there is one student of Charlie who had a smoking addiction, and he healed himself through a lucid dream. He said since then he never grabbed a cigarette after he had the conversation with his brain. So he asked the brain, his own brain in a lucid dream, that every time that he starts to think about smoking, that the brain will make him forget. And he said it actually worked so good that his partner was still smoking, said like every time he sent him for buying cigarettes, when coming home there would be no cigarettes in the bag. And because the person having the lucid dream would always forget about buying them, not for himself but for his friend, because he had no need for smoking anymore. That would be one a great story. Another benefit would be nightmare and shadow work, shadow integration. I have been teasing that in my last presentation, that there are different ways how you can call forth, again, a personification of different shadow aspects of your psyche, parts of yourself, which you don't love, you disown, you are ashamed of, which you push away into the subconsciousness. And then you can ask them to show themselves, to get in contact with, to befriend it and to transform. So could be anything starting from inner child work, sexual shadow stuff, you name it. Another one is creativity. Maybe this is speaking to a lot of you. There is a fantastic dream practitioner, Dr. Claire Johnson, and she said in her lucid dreams she would call forth her characters of her novels and she would have them act out how the story would further develop in her book. And then after waking up, she would go and write down those stories she had been experiencing in her lucid dreamscape. Sometimes she said that the dream character would come up and say, no, you can't do this with me. I need to do that and that. So it's really an active thing. It's not like observing a dream or witnessing a dream. It's like being in direct interaction. Okay, I think this one here is probably the top reason for most people why they start lucid dreaming, is having fun. And you can imagine what are those two most important, or number one and number two things people do in a lucid dream. Number one, flying. Number two, having sex. And for me, there is no problem with that at all. I think it's actually a safe space to explore that. That being said, if you imagine yourself that you are in your own psyche, therefore everything you perceive is yourself, I recommend that you treat yourself kindly. So if is a dream character, it's also you, as it is with the tree, as it is with the stone, with the street, with the clouds, everything you are perceiving in the dreamscape. So if you abuse the dream character, you are actually abusing your own part of your mind. So my recommendation is that you check your attitude and how you approach dream characters or things. And I think compassion is a I recommend to go forth. So, yeah, good. And also, if you have this like compassionate approach, you will find that your dream is starting to support you with the goals you're setting up yourself. So maybe from my own dream experience in the beginning, I thought like, okay, I can lucid dream, and now I can behave like a god, and everyone has to obey to my wishes and desires. And the dream said, no, 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 and kicked me out. And then I changed, thankfully, to the insight Charlie Morley was giving me, to a compassionate approach. And so I asked for permission. I thanked the dream, said, oh, I'm lucid, thank you, thank you. And then dream characters would come and start supporting me. Or I asked them, is it okay if I could? And they would say, yes, it's okay, or they would refuse. So it's on a more eye level. So the dreaming mind and yourself, you're meeting in the dream on eye level. Another benefit, you might be engaged in spiritual practice. So you could, for example, recite a mantra in a lucid dream, and then see what is happening if you recite that very thing. And in the Buddhist tradition, they say that the mind in a lucid dream is manifold stronger. So whatever you're planting there, those seeds will grow much faster than it would in the waking state. So you could go, for mantras or prayers, or meet your spiritual teachers. Who knows? Maybe you would like to meet Jesus or Christ consciousness, or maybe you're into Buddhism and you would like to meet the Buddha. You can call forth those deities if you like, and see if they will present themselves or not. Now going more down the spiritual path, there is in some teachings, like in shamanic practices as well, in Tibetan Buddhist practices, they speak about receiving teachings. So there is in Tibetan Buddhist terminology the word terma, which means treasure, and they say that some people placed hidden treasures in the dreaming mind, which are to be found by some people who are lucky enough. And so there are even those treasure hunters, they call tertan, and they are going out there to find those treasures and share that teaching. Often they are told if they should keep the teaching with themselves, or if it's one to be shared with the community.
Hello? Can't see or hear anyone anymore. Just gonna log out and then come back.
The moment when you are going to die, when you're entering the bardo state of death, so the in-between state. So if you know what is happening with your senses, what is happening with your mind, the moment you're falling asleep, they say if you gain a certain amount of control over it, it will greatly benefit you the moment when you die. Okay, so how do we get there to, the dream paradise I was promising you? All right, so we know it is the lucid dreaming, and with the lucid dreaming there are 4 foundations. And the very first one is the dream plan. So you could, by accident, stumble upon a beautiful beach and call it the paradise, but if you actually plan it to go there and say, I would like to see this beach during that season, and I need to book that flight or that ship, it's much more likely that it's going to happen. The same with a lucid dreaming. If you would like to succeed with going to the dream paradise, it's best to have a plan which is fueled with your emotion and heartfelt intention that you would like to go there. Like, what is a good dream plan? That's a plan which makes you go to bed early. It's something you say like, wow, if I could experience don't open your eyes quickly, that you keep them shut and see if there's still some dream images there, and you maybe will be able to track back to the dream which just happened. You know, you don't catch the dream like, it's like a butterfly. You don't catch the butterfly like this, it will be destroyed. So you wait for the butterfly to land on your hand, and that's a little bit how you treat the dreams in the early morning hours when you go to recall them. And then very often the gate to the dream memory will open, and the full amount of the dream, if you're lucky, is coming back to you if it has been gone missing. And the third pillar, so to speak, is a dream diary. So that means for different reasons we do keep a dream diary. The practice of a dream diary is that you also set the intention. Yes, in the morning I'm waking up and I'm expecting that I have to write down a dream. So just having pen and paper next to a bed will do wonders with your dream recall. And as well as the more you write your dreams down, you will also see underlying structures and patterns emerging because you're observing your own psyche. And it doesn't need to be a dream diary. I thought like it could be also the dude, yeah, instead the dream diary, the dream dude. You could speak it to a friend, your partner next to the bed, share with them your dream, maybe on the kitchen table in the morning. It also works if you're talking to something or someone. It could be a stone, a stick, an animal, a stuffed animal. It's the important part is that you verbalize and speak out the very dream. It somehow solidifies the memory in the waking state, and it's much harder than to forget what you have been dreaming. In many dreaming traditions, there were no writing, like in the Tibetan Buddhist monasteries, there was not so much writing. They had to speak to their colleagues to remember and practice the dream yoga practices. And number 4, the dream science. So we keep the dream diaries to get to know our dreams on a much deeper level, to be able to spot dream signs. And dream signs are things which gives us clues and hints to know, oh, actually, there's a flying cow. Flying cows are not normal, not in this reality. So what, oh, I must be dreaming. So dream signs are very important in the beginning, learning how to lucid dream, to trigger you into the self-awareness state where you then are lucid. So, and you maybe can, I hope you get the feeling what those 4 pillars are creating. If you look very closely, here we go, we do have the paradise. So the dream paradise exists by those 4 pillars: dream plan, dream recall, dream diary, and the dream science. Okay. So, so let's go with the dream plan, because I would like to get you active. And so in a few minutes, I would like you to grab pen and paper and to create your own dream plan. I will give you the structure behind the dream plan, so you do have the most success in your dream practice. First, have your paper ready and start with a sentence like, in my next lucid dream, in my next lucid dream, I will, ... Go into great detail what you would like to experience. For example, I would like to see my late grandmother, welcome her and give her a big hug and say those words, I love you. The more you describe the very thing you would like to experience, not just by one sentence, but maybe a paragraph or so, it shows how you will be more clear in knowing what you actually would like to experience. So go for it. Write down your wish, your desire, your intention, what you would like to experience in your lucid dream. Second, there is a sankalpa. Sankalpa is a punchline, so to speak. I was saying, like, in my next lucid dream, I would like to see my late grandmother. So maybe my sankalpa could be, dear grandmother, come to me. Why do I need to have a sankalpa, which is a Sanskrit term which means intention from the heart? Yeah, I think that's the translation from it. So you need something short, because the moment you get lucid, if you have a short call to action, you will already know what you want to do, your long story, so to speak. In the beginning, when you start becoming lucid, it's difficult to access your logical mind. Your prefrontal cortex is just booting up, so you maybe don't have access to your full memory yet. But with a short call to action or punchline, it's so much more easier. I know if I'm say, grandmother, come to me, I know all the very things I would like to do, like see her, hug her, tell her that I love her. And number 3, draw the very thing. Create your own art. And I specifically choose the picture from Mona Lisa because people think like, oh no, I'm not an artist. No, you don't need to. You can use a stick man. Nobody needs to see your creation. It's for you only. But why do you need the drawing? Because from my point of view, the writing will address the logical mind, the analytical mind, but the drawing will access the creative mind. And most often, the dreams will speak to you in a visual language and not in writing, not necessarily. Also not that speaking a little bit more, but the dreams very, very often present themselves through visual images. So if you also draw what you would like to experience, for example, I would be drawing my grandmother and embracing her, like draw myself and hugging her and making some hearts. It will giving myself a second time the information what I would like to do. What is my sankalpa? Grandmother, come to me. Fourth one, I found that came after years of doing this. Write down a date and maybe some checkbox. Because maybe you create for tonight this lucid dream plan of yours and it will not happen. So you don't give up the very first night. Try again and again, maybe for the next 2-3 weeks. And when you do have a date on the dream plan, you know, okay, it took me 10 days to succeed in this dream plan of mine. Yeah. Or maybe you will decide, okay, maybe I have to amend my dream plan a little bit, and or I will come back to it in 1 or 2 months and try it again. Why I'm saying this is, once I had the dream plan, let's check. Okay, I will stop the screen share. So once I had my dream plan, this one here, that's like a very practical dream plan of mine, which was I wanted to meet my biggest fear. And I had no idea how my biggest fear would look like, what would come up to me. So I created something completely crazy, messy, what I found to be the best representation. I wrote, in my next lucid dream, I call out greatest fear, come to me, to see who they are, what it is, and I embrace it with love and compassion. And the fear is fully and completely integrated for my personal benefit and the benefit of all sentient beings. So I also have myself here. I have arrows like showing love to the biggest fear, and then also an arrow showing integration, and like a comic, like a manga, I have greatest fear, come to me. So I was trying to execute to have this dream plan, and I had nightmares. Man, I had really good nightmares. Again and again, and the dream characters would come up to me, and I was not getting lucid, but I would have the nightmare, and the dream character would say like, do you really, really want to know? It will scare you. And I was things like this, and after 3 weeks of having nightmares after nightmares each night, I said, no, okay, that's too much. I'm not going to do this. I changed my approach and I flipped my dream plan 180 degrees. So I asked myself, okay, what would be the most opposite I could think of meeting my greatest fear. I thought like, maybe meeting love. And I said, okay, maybe meeting self-love would be a good thing. So I wrote down my dream plan to meet self-love and connect with that resource. Sure enough, that very night I got lucid and was able to meet my self-love. And since then, I do feel that I have this resource accessible, like a positive voice in my head, which comes up once in a while and says like, well done. Let's call it a day, relax, instead of pushing and abusing myself into too much work and so on. So long story short, you do have a dream plan, but if it's not working, maybe you have to mend it, try the opposite, get connecting with resources first. Okay, so for the next 10 minutes, if you could grab a pen and paper and spend like half of the time like articulating, finding the very thing you would like to do in the next lucid dream. If you never had a lucid dream before, don't worry. Maybe it will be your first one because of the dream plan. So write down what you would like to experience, create a little drawing, as well create a sankalpa, like a punchline, a call to action. And I will leave you for the next 10 minutes and afterwards we continue. All right. So the time is running now. And I will mute myself. So, because I still got 10 more minutes, let's see. Yeah, okay. I think I would like to do the breakout groups then. So that would be 8 minutes only. The reason why I would like to do breakout groups is the following. Because if you do speak out your intention, it does something. It somehow makes it more strong that your dreaming mind really gets it and says like, okay, I have the written version. I have had the drawing. I'm also perceiving a spoken out version. So if you speak your dream plan and share it with another person, it can sometimes really support it. But you don't have to. So optional, if you are in the breakout group, you can share with your, there will be 3 or 4 people in one breakout group. And you say like, okay, that was my experience, or I'm having troubles finding a good dream plan. So maybe other people, you will be inspired what the others say, what they have been planning to do. But number one, there is confidentiality. So because what people say, it goes dear to their heart. Maybe they say, I would like to have and drink a coffee. I don't know why the person wants to drink a coffee, but maybe that's a specific memory connected with something and the person doesn't want to share. That's totally fine. But I invite you to share some of your dream plan if possible. The confidentiality, when one person speaks, the others are listening. And there is no fixing. We are witnessing what the other person says only if the other person asks for support and help and says like, I don't know about this dream plan, any ideas how I could do that, then please go for it, but only after invitation. Okay, so 3 to 4 people, 8 minutes, which means maximum 2 minutes per person, so it's quite brief. And okay, I will set up the breakout groups. So I'm almost there. 8 minutes. So I'm ready. So enjoy your breakout sessions. And well, are there any questions before I start the breakout session?
Are you putting us in the breakout rooms, or are we doing it?
I will be doing, so you're randomly put
Okay.
together, and I will start in any moment. I'm sure that there are no open questions about the breakout rooms.
Krisha has a question, I believe, right, Krisha? See your hand up.
practical question. So will you time us? Will you tell us when the next person is to speak in the group, or do we have to time ourselves?
Please time yourself. I will give you a 2-minute warning before the 8 minutes are over.
Okay.
So maybe one person only needs a minute, the other person 3 minutes. So get the feeling, please, within the group that in average you will have like 2 minutes time, and I will give you a 2-minute warning. Okay. Any more questions?
I guess this is it. Okay.
So breakout sessions are open. Enjoy. See you soon.
So we're back.
So thank you all. I hope you had a great time sharing your dreams. This is something not so usual with the greater population, but with yours, I guess. You have been involved in dreaming very much. Anyway, so now there is time for Q&A, as well as if you feel like you would like to share one of your dream plans or ideas with the group, you're also very welcome to do so. So whenever you feel or you do have a question, unmute yourself, raise your hand. How you usually do it, Rula? Okay, Paula.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a look at the chat box. No questions yet. Oh, it seems Paula has a question.
Paula, yeah.
How do you,
Paula.
I take it you write poetry, is that right?
Myself or Rula?
Yes, do
You
you
do.
write?
Oh,
So how do you use this? How do you use this in your creative work?
well, there are different ways how you could use it. Me personally, for example, I could, for example, make a dream plan and say, I would like to see an image in the dream landscape which is so appealing to me that I would love to draw it in the waking state. So that could be like I go into a dream gallery, have different images on the wall to choose from and say, oh, that's an image I would love to bring into the waking state. Another opportunity is if you're writing poetry or so, that you, let's say you're stuck in the poetry and you don't, or in the novel, and you don't know how to continue, that you ask the character of the novel or the poem to personify in the dream, show up and tell you how this dream character, the poem or the novel would love to continue. So you're asking, sending a message to your subconsciousness directly to answer you. Does that help with your question, Paula?
Yes, and also, well, I guess that does show up in what you draw or write, because it's giving you an answer of how to move forward.
Absolutely. There's like, for me, like the waking state and the dream state, they are influencing each other more and more. I would dream travel routes before I would actually do them. I would trust my dreams that this is the way to go forward. Or if I'm not sure, I would ask again and say, let's double check on this. But I get hints and clues. My subconsciousness, for example, very practical. I was dreaming about going to the dentist, but I was not feeling any trouble with my teeth. But after the third dream, I said, like, okay, there is something behind it. I will go to the dentist and have it checked, despite having no pain. And sure enough, there was like right in the beginning, and the dentist could take care of because of the dream I had. So it can influence you on the dreams can influence the waking state on many levels.
Yeah, they certainly can. And Paula's question, I'm sure so many poets would also agree that yes, they have played an immense role in shaping our poems, in giving us images, especially the lucid dreaming state. So yes, and Florian is a great poet too, and he'll have his poetry featured in the Jungineum, the first issue of Jungineum, which is coming up next later this year. So thank you, Paula, for your question. And Kirsty has her hand up.
Hi, thank you, Florian. Really, really interesting. I'm a visual artist who works with dreams as well, so this is really fascinating. But you mentioned kind of at the beginning, the idea of lucid dreaming is you're dreaming. So if you start with this plan, obviously you would have a dream, maybe something that would happen in the dream, but how would the lucid dreaming be different to just having a normal dream? Could you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, excellent question, Kirsty. So for me, the question becomes, how do I know that I have been successful with my dream plan? Because it could manifest on 3 different levels. It could manifest in a lucid dream, so that I speak out the sankalpa, my punchline, and the very thing is happening. Or it could happen in a normal dream, or it could happen in the waking state. So the difference is in a lucid dream that there is something very specific which is happening in a lucid dream, which is neuroplasticity is engaged. So for example, if you are facing a fear in a lucid dream, your body believes, it makes no difference between the waking and the dreaming in a lucid dream. And so let's say you're afraid of spiders, and the dream spider is climbing on your dream body. You tell yourself this is a dream, but your body makes no difference and says, oh, Florian is okay with spiders now, and neural pathways are put into place, which are then still active and there in the waking state. So whatever your dream plan is, the very experience you have in a lucid dream tells your mind in the waking state, oh, I'm bigger, I can do more, I can change and break and open up my belief system. I can grow bigger, I can bring more into reality. I think that's the biggest difference. If the dream plan, let's say, if you would like to know further down the road how your novel goes, if you're writing one, and you have, so to speak, a profound dream, and that's really interesting, I write it down. Well, that's good enough for me. I take any dream which is helping me, I take it. The difference with the lucid dream is that you have neuroplasticity activated. So your physiology is changing. I think that's the strongest. And maybe one more point. I have been once to a retreat, and there was a Norwegian dude, and his dream plan was to be on the moon and look down on Earth. He wanted to experience the very same thing astronauts are experiencing. And he planned this for a lucid dream, but actually after he had done the dream planning and he sit down for the upcoming meditation, he had an out-of-body experience, finding himself on the moon looking down on Earth. And it really changed him. Like he said, that was the very thing he wanted to experience. So a dream plan can not only happen in the dream state, but also in the waking state in different ways. I hope, Kirsty, this somehow helps you.
Really fascinating. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Good question.
Thank
you. Yeah, I see Hedy's hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, are we sort of brainwashing ourselves? Auto-suggesting, like in some ways?
I think in a very positive way, yes.
Yeah, in a positive way, I mean.
Yeah. From my point of view, I would say that the dreaming mind is a thought-responsive environment. What I mean by that is, on the website, when you change the window size, the things arrange according to the size of the window. So whatever you believe your dreaming mind is presenting you, if you make change to experience you bigger than you are, your dream will support you in that. The other way as well. So I have one person I know, he is atheist, he doesn't believe in any spirit, or he's not into any spiritual agenda. So he he's not experiencing any blissful, godlike states in his dream, because his belief system, his worldview says there is no God. What they are talking about, like those samadhi states or bliss states, so he's not having them. Despite I have many Buddhist practitioners who regularly meet Buddhist figures and other creatures, entities in the dreamscape which fill the heart with love. Is it a projection of their own mind, I think, or is it something from the outside? For me, the more important thing is, what does it do to me in the waking state? Am I more open, more compassionate? Am I more grounded? Then I think it's a very good thing to play around with the very things and changing my perception. Oops.
So you could work on, for example, I have a fear of driving on the highway, or working on the way you react to triggers. In other words, improving your response to stressful situations. So one could start to do a self-therapy directed towards these lucid dreams.
I think that's the holy grail. When I was assisting Charlie Morley, who was living in London, we had, since I'm there were like 600 or 700 veterans and soldiers with PTSD. And some of them have been trained to have lucid dreams, and because they do have some of them have recurring nightmares. So they're back in Iraq or wherever they have been fighting. So they re-experience that trauma again and again. And in a lucid dream, they go there and then they recognize, oh, this is not the battlefield. This is my own mind creating the situation of the battlefield. And they start relaxing. And then the neuroplasticity is engaged. So we do know that there is a certain degree of healing happening where you can change your fear, get rid of your fear, which, how do I compare it? Let's say you do hypnotherapy or any therapy where you access those hidden agendas underneath the conscious surface. In a lucid dream, which is much more difficult to access for the majority of the people, but you can go very, very deep. So maybe one lucid dream, it multiplies. It's deeper than a deep hypnosis. So yes, you could go in a lucid dream and say like, okay, I'm in a car on the highway, and to get the feel of it, how it is, and to relax myself because I know nothing can happen to me. This is a dream. Everybody on the highway is me as well. So everybody is taking care. There are no accidents. I take my time. It's my own speed. You direct the dream. So that could be actually a fantastic dream plan.
Thank you for this question, Hedy. I hope actually that I'll be able to work on my phobias through lucid dreaming. I have a very strange phobia, though it's not uncommon, but I find dogs to be the cutest creatures in the world, but they terrify me in real life. I cannot get near them. I love dogs. All animals, actually, in general. I'm a vegetarian and everything, and it's just, I don't know why. It's okay for me to see them in my dreams, and I often do. I often see dogs in my dreams, and I'm playing with them, so it's more like a wish, something that I want to manifest. But I don't know I don't know the source of this phobia. But maybe now that you mentioned that it could help us with overcoming these phobias, maybe I should intentionally dream more of dogs, or have them in lucid dreams.
You could dream about the dogs, or you could also have a dream plan and say, show me the source of the fear of dogs. Because you don't know actually what is hidden underneath your subconsciousness somewhere, why there is this kind of reaction. but giving the dreaming mind the opportunity to present maybe a situation or memory, whatever it is, connected with the very thing, can help you to open up and hopefully heal and transcend that fear.
I hope so. And I like the word heal because, yeah, it does feel like a disease. You know, you're not supposed to be fearful of dogs because they are cute and nice and all that.
I have
Thank
a
you,
suggestion.
Hedy. Yes, Jade, go ahead.
Hi, I have a suggestion because I was afraid of dogs like all my life. And
Okay.
I was only afraid of big dogs though. And what happened was just learning how to physically like take them off of me and put them down and not be afraid to touch them if they're jumping and they're not vicious. I think that was the first step to me being able to like not have that fear anymore. So I would say actually if it's like if they jump at you, like that could be like a first step of actually like getting yourself to physically hold them from the back and like show them not to jump up on your face. And then that might help you when they're not jumping too. But that's not a dream. I do have a dream question after though.
Yes, please, if you go
Yeah,
for
go
it.
ahead.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Your question, Jade, please.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so my question was if anybody's had a lucid dream or you have, what do you feel any differently physically, say in the morning? Like do you feel, I know there could be a say a benefit that overrules other disadvantages, but did you notice that you felt more well rested during the day after lucid dream as opposed to if a dream that just happened with no understanding that you're dreaming?
Yes, definitely. Let's say you have a dream plan and you would like to integrate a shadow aspect of yourself, so part of your psyche which you disown, let's say a fear of something. And if you have been successful in the dream plan, let's say you have been integrated sexual shadow, some aspects of yourself which you're not happy with, the next day you feel that the psychic energy back into your body. So your mood is lifted, you feel like more energetic, so to speak, depending on what you have been able to do. Some people feel joy for days and weeks. But
That's awesome. Thank you.
That's not always happening, but you can, for example, if you're working with fear of dogs or spiders, you had been successful with the dream plan, you can then prove it in the waking state, taking all safety rules, of course, but then maybe approaching a dog and see, oh, how is my body reacting, showing the typical symptoms, or am I relaxed? Am I fine with it? How is my breathing? And people report with a successful dream plan, it's instant. It's not like a maybe or 10%. It's like if it's working, then you have instant feedback in waking state.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Informative.
And if you would like to go the shamanic way, you can shapeshift and become the dog, become the very thing you're afraid of, and see like, oh, this is how dogs feel, and suddenly you maybe smelling and tasting like a dog, those 1,000 times more intense. I know one person becoming a spider and then realizing, oh my God, I have to take care of 6 or 8 legs, how complicated. And they're the big humans, I'm so afraid of the humans. And now he says, like, when there is the spider, it's like, oh, little cute spider, I have to be careful. And before it was like in the corner of the room. But that dream experience helped him to change perspective.
That's very interesting. Thank you, Florian, and thank you, Jade, for the tip and the question. Would anybody like to, Paula. Yes, Paula, go ahead.
I'd like to hear more about the veterans and PTSD. How successful was that program? And has it been applied more widely?
Well, we are in the what is it called? And on the very edge of science, like it's the newest science out there. And the first round with 50 people the results was really super promising, but there was one form mistake. So it was not published yet. Therefore, it's been redone again with the double amount of people, I think with 50 or more people. But what it showed is that, what I can tell you from the previous round, is that those people diagnosed with clinical PTSD, after having the training, the lucid dreaming training, the PTSD scores dropped significantly, some of them being out of being clinically diagnosed as PTSD anymore. So within this, I think it was 1 week of training only, and the goal was to have a lucid dream addressing the trauma and heal that in a lucid dream state. So I would say it's not the golden bullet to solve all the trauma stuff there, but it's a brilliant tool, one of many, which is finally getting into the toolbox. And when we did those workshops online for the people, some of them, there are at the military bases all over the world, and they don't have access to an in-person therapist, or it's very difficult for them. So they're like, a lucid dreaming practice is something you can do if you have been introduced to the practice, you can then do it yourself, which is one of the brilliant things of the lucid dreaming.
It's wonderful. And in a way, when you think of lucid dreaming this way, it kind of gets rid of the common notion that we do not have control over our dreams, because, you dream what you dream of. You don't wish to dream of your fear. You don't wish to have nightmares, but they happen on their own. But somehow, do you find that lucid dreaming is a way, or a little leeway into the world of dreams, into having at least some amount of control over the dream? I mean, if successfully implemented, of course.
It can go a wide range in changing the whole, not being happy with the dream, and changing everything, changing dream characters, creating the whole scene new.
Wow.
But I thought it's about control, and my dreaming mind said no, and kicked me out of the dreams once I was lucid, and said, like, no, that's not how you behave. And I changed it to this compassionate approach, which is more like directing, asking for permission. And then often the dream says yes. Or maybe a dream character comes to you and says, like, not now, you're not ready yet. So the dream will give you feedback. So another image I give, imagine you are a sailor on a boat on the ocean. With controlling, is like you would like to control the sea. But with directing, is like, I would like to go with my boat that direction to come to that island. And this is something, because the subconsciousness, the dreaming mind, is like the ocean. Because I'm not creating the trees and the colors and the dream characters, they appear. So there is a power there, an intelligence there. And I try to have a dance, a communication, a relationship with this dreaming mind. And once it's becoming a dance, if you get to know the language of the dreaming mind, if you're asking for permission, the dream will come halfway towards you and support you in your dream adventures or your dream plans.
It's a nice way of looking at it.
And then if you you could change the surrounding, but you can change yourself. And in the Buddhist practices, for example, you would try to do things which you believe to be impossible. So can I be at 2 places at the same time? Can I be at 3 places at the same time? Can I look 360 degrees all around? Can I have no body and be just pure consciousness floating in space? Can I be, for example, a woman? Can I be a dog, a bird? Can I fly? Shape-shifting, making small things big, big things small, multiply things. This is all part of the dream yoga training.
Oh, that is very interesting. And it's, I don't know if it's what Carl Jung said, making the unconscious conscious. So somehow when you are lucid dreaming, you are kind of participating in this act. It's an exercise, maybe, that can be seen that way.
You can see it that way. And sometimes, in the beginning, it's a little bit difficult. You don't know, is my dream really listening? But with the dream plan, you will figure out, I'm writing a love letter and my dreaming mind is responding. Actually, I can have a connection with my dreaming mind, starting a conversation. And sometimes the dreaming mind goes and says like, no, you're not getting lucid. Listen to my dream. I have to show you. You need to understand, learn this first.
That is so informative, entertaining, refreshing, an opportunity to reflect and to kind of organize our thoughts. So thank you so much for this today, Florian. This was amazing. We all enjoyed this so much. We enjoyed sharing and engaging together. It was brilliant and lovely, and we look forward to having you with us in future workshops as well.
Thank you so much, Rula. Thank you all for your questions.
Thank you. We're going to be taking a 10-minute break now, 31 seconds. So I guess we are there. Yeah.
I just wanted to say to Florian, that was just a wonderful presentation. What a way to kick off the day. And I look forward to hearing what poetry emerges that will inevitably somehow connect back. It feels like in these Psychreative meetings, we always have all these threads that tie together and find their way into a cohesive form by the end. So I can't wait to hear what comes next. So
I'm sure will come next. Yeah, I mean, Florian gave us a few exercises that I believe if we stick to for a while, a lot would come out of it.
Yeah, everybody pay attention to your dreams the next few weeks. And
you never know, they might just come true.
So we're gonna start out the poetry, creative writing, whatever they have to share. I'm not sure, but we've got 4 wonderful presenters. And if we end up with extra time, we'll open it up for open mic. So we're gonna start with Hedy Habra. And take it away, Hedy.
Thank you very much. The poems I'm going to be reading are all inspired by dreams. I'll start with a couple that are from my latest book, The Taste of the Earth. They're Anima Methodi sonnets. So, riding the winged tricycle. When Saturn's 3 crescent moons enter their wild dance, I see myself riding the winged tricycle of my youth towards an open nave that grows into a caravel, flaunting my winged effigy on its prow, a figurehead that appears at the centerpiece of a gilded triptych, while concentric dark brushstrokes around my wide open eyes convert me into a revered icon. Glowing crescents hover above my head, halos inscribed within the alignment of Orion's 3 stars, ominous signs tell me that age is but an illusion, that I can ride that small bike, soar, heady with my childhood dreams, dizzy with the illusion that past, present, and future come together at once. The next Anima Methodi sonnet is a recurrent dream. Anxiety erodes my sleep night after night as memories and fantasies collide. Heartbeats merge, projected onto a screen at full speed, till my heart loses its elasticity, unable to bounce back. A dull horizon appears, flattening waves and desert dunes. A serene landscape without ups and downs, nor a change of seasons, till the screen erupts ablaze. We enter a country torn by civil war, trapped in winding alleys with checkpoints, danger lurking in every corner. I'm back wherefrom I fled decades ago, and now I'm lost, dream after dream, in the wrong neighborhood. I can't ask for a ride home. Home is the enemy. Can't find my way back to safety. Desperate, I realize I'm getting closer to the straight line that accompanies silence. The next poems I'm going to read were recently published this fall, and this one was published by the MacGuffin. I have to mention that because for the journal. It's titled, "Or How Did I Even Think I'd Make It Back in Time for Class?" I'm late for class. I take a trolley, but the old driver takes us to a strange place by the beach. The sea and sky merge in clear aquamarine. We watch a fisherman throw nets at a distance. A boat ride would be lovely. A girl in a flowered dress bends over a net of algae. I know her, but can't remember her name. She went to school with me in Cairo. Tiny blue crabs crawl on the sand. On the rocky reefs, purple sea urchins are nested. My nonna loved to eat them in Alexandria. Richie, Richie, she'd say with a smile. We come across a stand. Smoke rises from ears of corn roasting over coals. Oil, lemon, herbs drizzle over tender flesh. It is getting dark. Blue sparks electrify the dense air. I love the crab's orange heart. It tastes just like in Ras El Bar, that little island where the Nile blends with the Mediterranean. Vendors carried them in baskets, chanting, "Kaburia, kaburia." It is time for cocktails. People gather around a buffet erected at the foot of the cliff. They keep coming out of a transparent elevator sliding in midst of the quartz sandstone. I think of a fisherman's net rising with its catch. It could be our only way out. It stops midway. A door opens to a conference room. I see an old date from Beirut. An ophthalmologist with black curly hair, still handsome. How does he manage to keep his hair so black, so curly after 40 years? I realize it is past 9. How did I ever think I'd make it back in time for class? Okay, the next poem appeared on the seawall in the fall, and it is titled, "Last night I saw Mom at a party. She wore a brightly colored dress, but her head was covered by a pharaonic double veil. The first, in silk gauze, was visible over her temples underneath the black velvet. I kept watching her from afar and couldn't understand this headdress a la Tutankhamun. Unlike her mom, who never left the house without a hat and gloves, she seldom used her black lace veil during Mass. When I approached her, she disappeared towards the restrooms and came out in a black spindle dress, her hair pulled back in a low bun a la Farah Diba. Stunned, I wanted to ask her, where did you find such beautiful clothes? I'd like to go shopping with you. But people kept cutting in before I could utter a word, and with her usual stern expression, she joined other guests at the dinner table. I opted for resting in the living room that was suddenly crowded with babies, and several ladies flocked around them with doting expressions. Before I could get up from the sofa, a plump baby landed on my lap. I didn't know what to do with him. I put him in a nearby stroller and placed a soft beanie cushion under his head, oblivious of what was going on around me, all the while thinking of Mom's stunning transformation, and kept wondering why I could never find anything decent to wear. The next poem appeared this fall in Not magazine. It's titled, "Why Are There Always So Many Heteroclite Persons in My Dreams?" I entered an auditorium announcing a recitation of poetry in 50 languages. Suddenly, a woman started humming and chanting in an unknown Slavic language. When we were summoned to take turns singing, I ran out to another room where Spanish was the norm. I followed two women who looked familiar, perhaps from an earlier conference. When I asked them about their field of research, they stared at me as though I was speaking gibberish. "We're from Beirut," they said. I turned around and found myself in a courtyard covered with mosaics extending into corridors that led to the middle of nowhere, next to a disaffected train station by the foot of tall mountains and gigantic ruins. I stumbled upon a young man who promised to take me back to where I would find my bearings. He took me to a crowded apartment from which I couldn't leave. I said there was nothing to gain from my detention. After all, I was an old woman with no money who needed to be back to the city center with street lights and restaurants. But no one listened to me as though I were transparent. I woke up distressed as I realized I was only separated from safety by a thin veil. And the last poem is named Turning Around in Circles and was just published by Apple River Review. Turning around in circles, as though tied to a post, lassoed by recurring dreams, vanishing as soon as I open my eyes. I'm lost in the middle of nowhere, a few blocks from my hotel, unable to find my way back. I keep taking the wrong turn. Shifting landscapes encircle me inside a cyclorama. Flickering familiar stores' lighted signs give way to muddy trails leading to railroad tracks next to temples sculpted with erotic figures, like the bas-reliefs covering the Baron Empire Palace's facade, the eccentric Belgian aristocrat's Hindu temple implanted 4 blocks from my house in Heliopolis, as mythical deities' piercing glances follow me through small streets forking into deserted alleys where bent silhouettes sweep with tied twigs like automatons, and vendors display makeshift assortments of trinkets next to greasy fast food stalls that spin a déjà vu of oniric symbols, giving way to shades riding over trails and rails, casting shadow shows over a proscenium that disappears and reappears at an ever-increasing speed, swaying me into a liminal space where no traces of trees, homes, or wheels are to be found, while in the cauldron of my mind, words burn like joss paper, followed by numbers that rise in flames as soon as I try to align them to find my bearings or call for help were I to find a payphone. Thank you.
Wonderful, Hedy. Thank you. I feel like we've just been on all these journeys now.
You've got some fascinating dreams.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I love the titles of your poems, Hedy. They're just, you know, they make us want to read more and hear more of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Beautiful. So thank you, Hedy. Next on our agenda is Joan Leotta, and Joan's going to have 10 minutes as well, and we'll see what she has to offer. Thanks for being here, Joan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thank you, Florian. That was such a wonderful talk. I really enjoyed it. I still have a few questions about categories of dreams, but they're not appropriate for this moment. So, but I have a lot of dreams that I remember clearly, and I also have recurring dreams. I haven't written poems about them yet, but this particular poem came to me, and I felt I needed to write it because it's a poem about death, and most times people are afraid of dreams about death. but I found this one very comforting. So I wanted to share it, so I wrote it. Dreaming Across the Sticks. It's in my first book, Languid Lusciousness with Lemon. Dreaming Across the Sticks. My father walks into my room wearing his long tan trench coat. A finely blocked felt hat tops his jet black wavy hair. He tamps down the tobacco in his cherrywood pipe, then turns to me, his brown eyes twinkling. He steps back into a poorly lit hallway I do not recognize. Dad removes his coat and sits in an orange plastic chair. Coat on his lap, he draws softly on the pipe and nods toward me. Cherry-flavored tobacco smoke soothes me. Dad is waiting for me, as always, through theater classes, piano lessons, dance lessons. Patiently enmeshed in his own thoughts, he waits without complaint. Suddenly I'm awake. I'm at home. No hallway, no chair, no cherry tobacco, only the smell of coffee. My father smiles from his photo. Some say dreaming across the sticks means that ferryman Charon will soon arrive. Not for me. Instead of Charon, my own beloved father waits patiently to ferry me across the sticks in his white 1960 Thunderbird. And that's my dad. And I've had other dreams of lots of people, which I guess I should write into poems now. Some are people across the dead, and a very interesting experience that I had that I'll share before I read these next two poems is that when I was in Southern Africa in Lesotho, I dreamt that my grandmother died. And it was such a real dream that I felt it really happened. And I made a long distance call, which in 1967 meant I had to go to the capital city and make a trunk call, and it was very difficult. And my grandmother was quite alive and quite well. But when I got home from Southern Africa, I was told that my best friend's mother, who looked exactly like my grandmother, had died at the time I had the dream. So these are things that influence my writing, influence my way of thinking about dreams, and lead me to believe they're important. And even though I haven't written about that one yet, I'm sure it will come up. But I'm going to read you two poems. One, why I wasn't able to dream about something, and another where I do have a dream, and it's an exculpatory dream. So Magritte's Apple, and these are both from my new book, brand new, just out, Feathers on Stone. Magritte's Apple explains it all. And this is about what inspired it was a picture by Magritte where the huge green apple in a classroom takes up all the space in the room. One glance at this canvas and I knew the answer to the conundrum troubling my heart. Why, in the 20 years since she left this earth, has my mother not visited me in a dream? Dreams, those moments when the conscious mind relaxes, when life's everyday reality joins with matter deep inside, bridging that line between the known and mystery. In that land of dreams, I've often watched, met, even talked with my grandmother, father, aunts, and son. All of these beloved departeds have spoken to me. My son has directly addressed me more than once. Only my mother has never appeared, not even walked across my mental stage as a cameo. Occasionally, I admit, I worry that perhaps she doesn't visit because I didn't love her enough in life for her to remain connected. But how can that be when I know I loved her then and still love her very much? In life, we laughed and argued, had much to say to one another. I wear her jewelry, cook her recipes, chuckle over her sayings. Regularly, even though it's been 20 years, when I open the drawers of her wooden vanity, aroma of youth dew wafts up to meet me. Now Magritte has helped me understand. My mother does not need to wait for night for dreams to return. She fills my days in many ways. She does not come in dreams because she's never really left my waking moments. She fills the room of my consciousness, my crisp green apple of a mother, larger than life, even in death. That was my mom. Red hair, green eyes, lived it. Very much a different sort of person. Now in this dream, in this next poem, it's after, obviously I've realized that I can let her back into my dreams, or she can come between dreams and not, because she's mentioned in the dream. What I found when I lost my earring. Settling into my window seat after running to catch my connection at Atlanta Hartsfield, I reached up to remove my earring. Left ear's shiny metal clip-on daisy easily slid into my hand. Reaching for its twin, however, my fingers found a bare lobe. Immediately, I realized the probable moment of loss when I hastily slung the wide-strap bag at my feet hard over my shoulder as I ran for that connecting gate. Likely the strap brushed my floral clip-on off, away from the garden of my ear. I fretted over the loss on the flight, upset in disproportion to that daisy's $1 cost. While at my destination, a recurring dream roiled my sleep, bringing up a memory, how against advice I had foolishly worn and lost my mom's aquamarine ring, the one her father had made for her upon her graduation. In the dream, once again, she said it was all right, but I could still see and sense her sadness. Slip on a thrift shop bauble bought for $1. Determined to find redemption, at least from this loss, on my way home, I stopped at the Delta Lost and Found. I described my lost item to a blue uniformed woman. She checked her list. No one turned it in. I sighed and said, guess I should know better than to wear something I like when traveling. She reached over the counter, clasped my hand. Remember this. Things are just things. If you like something, wear it. Enjoy it while you have it. Do not blame yourself for what you cannot control. Things are made to be used. That very night, I dreamt again of my mother. She was smiling at me. On her right hand, she wore my lost daisy clip-on. And those are the three dreams I have, the three poems I have about dreams that I've written so far, but now Florian and Hedy have inspired me to put together some more from ones that are recurring, especially, and help me to take control a little. But I'll tell you this, Florian, I am not turning into a spider. not. What can be a dog? Those spiders. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. What rich remembrances those were in your poems, and so sensory. I felt like I was there in them with you. Just beautiful. So next we have Aaron, and Aaron Mason will also have 10 minutes if they choose to use all 10 minutes. But it's the stage is yours, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So this first piece is a work in progress. It's an excerpt, and it's experimental in a couple of ways. The genre is something I call academic memoir, and that's not necessarily a name that I'm thrilled with, but it's sort of what I'm calling it. And the other experiment is the narrator is referred to as the singular they. So that's kind of a new thing. So I'll read my excerpt and then a poem after. The first time they your narrator contributed to a collaborative poem during their first residential in Pacifica's humanities program. The line was, "My uncle was a ballerina." Uncle Brent, their father's identical twin brother, was definitely more like a Hermes trickster than a con artist, though he loved using artifice as a tool. Spoofing hypocrisy was high art for him. Thus, the Trocadero, a drag ballet company of accomplished dancers who finds the humor in the clash between the perfectionism of the art form and the humanness of non-petite bodies lumbering toward that unattainable ideal, was a great place for my uncle to dance. And when he danced into their 6-year-old heart and mind via their grandparents' TV set in Littleton, Colorado, they knew that queerness, their own and their Uncle Brent's, was an inheritance, a birthright to be claimed and cherished and shared. This made it much easier for them to reject Catholicism's insistence on gendered hierarchies, attaching sinfulness to queerdom, and other hypocrisies, including the systematic protection of pedophile priests. Things came full circle when they were able to trace some of the early assaults against the divine feminine aspects of nature and culture, when they understood that most of the world religions also assaulted femininity in the abstract and in the reality of lived experiences. So the queer trickster archetype started to embrace their inner pagan. Encounters with Earth Mother figures evolved from a dream about Liza Minnelli into a practice of playing in the dirt consciously, thanking Gaia, giving back energy to her, reconnecting themselves to her electromagnetic fields, to the antidepressant microbes in the soil. Inanna brought images of storm clouds to them and their classmates simultaneously about 9 years ago. Like Hermes, Inanna traveled into the underworld, though in her case it was to claim power more so than to guide others. Lilith, like Inanna, was a goddess whose story was borrowed, lifted, stolen, rewritten, edited, and eventually demonized and denigrated. In the epic poem of Inanna, Lilith has moved into a sacred tree, and Inanna asks her brother Gilgamesh for his help getting Lilith out. As they were reading these sources in grad school, they practiced active imagination, the Jungian technique of allowing images to proliferate and to converse with them. The rest of the class was also engaging in this practice and reported back via our online forums. At least 3 of their other classmates also saw storm clouds in association with Inanna, the kind of thing that gives one shivers and goosebumps for sure. This image reminded them also, your author also saw an ancient rusted cannon covered in moss and tendrils. This image reminded them of Flower Power, the famous news photo of a blonde civilian man placing a daisy into the tip of a military policeman's gun barrel. Inside every living phallus is a tube, a passageway. Then they also remembered in high school, they bussed tables in their family's restaurant and met Rebecca, a butch lesbian who wore a pendant around her neck, a replica of a double-bladed axe. The labris was an ancient symbol of lesbianism. Then in the mix of active imagination, they encountered a memory of a scene from Hedwig and the Angry Inch. In the scene, a mix of heavy petting and an explosive argument, and the discovery of Hedwig's secret botched gender confirmation surgery. Tommy Gnosis says to his lover, his would-be, when Eve was still inside Adam, they were in paradise. The author wondered how Eve got inside Adam, especially given that the ancient Sumerian literature mentioned before and pre-patriarchal culture they loved, and every fiber of their queer feminist non-binary being supported the idea that the pulling of her, capital H-E-R, from a pre-existing Adam is wrong. And they knew that it was she, capital S-H-E, who had always been and always would be. If they missed this, what else did they get wrong? This was the question Harry Hay instilled decades ago in his young, gay, scholarly protege, Will Roscoe. And then I go on to talk about two spirits. I'll just finish with a couple more paragraphs. In the model of two spirits, no human is othered. There is place for variations. As someone who identified as a gay teenage boy, then a gay man, and realized I was predestined to be queer, I naturally wondered how modern American culture would look now if colonization had not imposed its binary rules for boys versus girls. What if the settlers had attempted to coexist with the original Americans rather than conquering them? What if a critical mass of Euro-Americans worked to understand rather than impose their understanding on the people whose homelands they now occupied? What would society look like today? So now move to the poem, if I have time. How am I doing?
You're good.
Awesome. So this brief poem is called On a 14-Hour Relationship. It must have been, if not a dream, a borrowed time, a pocket of stolen bliss. The buck and doe outside my aunt's picture windows. Should I have stayed? My own hands, antlers, blood. Should I have walked more careful in your sanctuary once you flung open the doors? The rush of honeysuckle, musk, cedar needles, and chili oil knocked me senseless, unable to be mannered or still. So I leapt instead of looking. Your defenses rose like primordial dawns, and I was outside, denied entry to the orchard, the castle, the center of healing. So walking slowly now, I think it best to pause in my daydreaming and speculation and breathe into the chasms you left me to scale. Nudge my wounded heart back into its cage until we meet again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank
What
you.
deep questions you raise. I can't wait to hear how this keeps evolving for you, and hope you'll come back and read us more sometime.
I'd like that.
So our last presenter of this section, and I think we should end up with some time for a few open mic volunteers, is Claude Barbre. So Claude.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Let's share my screen.
Yeah.
Can everyone see?
Yes.
So in keeping with the dream theme, my first poem is entitled Shadow. It is a day the gods dance best in bare feet, when the world on its drunken axis spins and life is filling fast with what is passing. Up early, it's afternoon, and the sun could be rising, but it's not. Spilt my second cup of coffee on the daily news and made the wars all wet. Getting dark and I just got going. So where's the tattoo this time, El Amigo? My turn as Dante, indisposed, until the hazy lentils of the eastern stars are touched with trebles. I'm greeting my grief with bus stop grit. Have a nice day, a dead day, a muscle paroxysm worth the poison, a precious pandemonium of death, breath. It never works. October's last leaf now trembles and falls. A dungeon skeleton's jaw goes limp. The home of every source is sweet with rot. Long in the late day hour, my creature gloats in tall grass. He waves when I wave, he dances when I dance. He knows me best, this rumpled shape in the throes of vanities and choice, the crush of flesh and bone that fertilizes hope. We reminisce our sweet regrets by voguing on one foot, then practicing pretensions, a gathering of foils, a little Broadway spin and tap for every unlived life. The drum roll, hips, and hula roll for too much management of hurt. A backstairs silhouette for shameless bouts of subterfuge. A circus sprawl and tumble down for foolish pride and plume. We've stepped into a crossroad dust. Now sudden strangers come to town to face high noon and win the draw for lassitudes of will. We're scheming how to salvage time, exchanging clothes to fool the prison guards, our better days, the negatives of undeveloped film. We're joined like Joker doubles lifted from a broken deck of cards, the intuition of each twin when something's wrong. I'm singing his favorite song again, the one that weeps with promises and ends with the new moon, the one that scores the boneyard holidays, the bloody business suit, the unpicked tooth, the haunts of households round their feeding tables, like faceless pumpkins left in fields to sink after the Halloween. He sings along by darkening to dusk and turns like earth to go his way of intervals and change. The swallows gyre overhead like cartoon dizziness. In the purse expansive light, a final pantomime, a knight of faith who draggles death and gambles high upon the hill for every troubled spirit sped directionless. This final frolic danced by standing still. We're children of Persephone, seasoned for the custodies of fated worlds. This next poem is about current events, especially the amount of autocrats in the news. The name of this poem is called Despot. Since first I thumbed the dime store daily news, displaced among the Marvel comics rack, and reeled a Nickelodeon of crimes into my 10-year-old imagined world, I've known the coiffed rascallions in suits, the boorish killers crowned in Euchre couth, who plunder history by sleight of lands, with mongoose red stone stares that lean to strike a snaky soullessness inside the eyes and leak a pale faience of bloodless shine. Crew-cut cowboy in my duster coat, my dreams of fabled villains, dartled scenes of Argus-eyed monstrosities condemned to meet their match when heroes don their masks. In time, all would be saved in the nick of time, and wrongs would be redeemed, set right with emblem virtues lazed in lettered fame. Now villainy is valorized as flair on little lamps of iPhone cyber fairs, and murder digitized and neatly screened with memes of stale derivatives that jade the least aggrieved with new conspiracies to fan the spark of misinformed appeal and faddish names commuted to marquees, retraced upon a pentimento con, inverted meanings, message like a code. MAGA means crow. Z means genocide. July 4th means January 6th. Pro-life means death and patriarchal choice. School means debt. Health means managed care. Diversity means white, class, duress. Jesus means prophet. Church means state. The final cry of Christ becomes a trope that's practiced for a slick promotional. And truth becomes the liar's alibi. And freedom and apartheid Sunday school. And justice turns to vigilante laws that slake the few, incarcerate the mind, immerse creative dissonance with grift. The edge of change is serpentine for miles. A carnage yet to come is sown with salt. The tyrant maunders with a charnel grin. He waves to passersby. He walks the dog. He tells his children to be home by 10. And then finally, in sort of imaginative, I was reading Basho recently, and I thought, what would it have been like to travel with the peripatetic poet of Japan in the 17th century? So I imagine walking with Basho, the poet, and so the title of this poem is With Basho Walking. Green peach, white plum, shadows of the meadowlark hashed beneath the Rose Bay Alp, once the blackbirds ruckus by, once their senate calls dissolve into the spired conifers, sidle song, their brief obods. Blue ghost heron holds its bow, balanced on a single stilt, reedy legs like bamboo calms, bent by water fields of rice. Silhouettes of towns recede. Equine clouds panade in pairs, bend their saffron heads to drink from apices of cherry trees, whose blooms have fallen ankle deep, and blizzard where we rest, submerged the last night's left out sake cups. A village cat that followed us has kneaded paw prints on the moon, one eye on persimmon carp, the other on our river talk. Sunlight through the Tory gate wears a yellow hat of straw, wanders barefoot in the grass, 1,000-year-old Kiso Road, slender as an Opie ash sash. Breakfast miso, mad apples, after dark with luck, some fish. The silence of the temple bells echo in the lantern stone, blue brush strokes on tea leaf jars, orchid nods on deckled crepe. From the west, unwinding rain drops its hanging scrolls of silk, inks a mountain mist of wash, hockey swept with jasper glaze, second coated where we sit, pilgrim monks of nothingness, ombrant figures on a vase. Thunder drums its sutras north, cold cascades of Udino. Canon, mercy goddess, grant an awesome bath, tatami mats, and sleep as long as cedar years by the time we reach Sajin. Dreams we offer, querned and steeped, whisked in broken porcelains. Resin wounds unsealed by gold, take our alms of empty hands. Satchels filled with scraps of words, feed the cat tomorrow's poems. Thank you.
Wonderful, Claude. Thank you. This beautiful imagery. takes me away. All right, so we have a few minutes, I think, if one or two people want to contribute a poem to open mic, you could just raise your virtual or real hand and unmute yourself. Anybody?
So who will be our next poet?
Raymond. Raymond, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't have it, so I can put it on the screen. I'm sorry
Oh,
about
that's
that.
okay. No, that's fine.
And you can hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay. Thanksgiving prayer from Mesa Verde. What if the ancient Anasazi built a wall to keep the Europeans out? What if they gave disease to every white settler who stepped upon their shores? What if they took a child from her mother and sent her alone across the Rockies? What if your ancestors never came here and you woke up this morning in Ukraine and gave thanks that the Tsarist soldiers left while the Hopi were still praying for rain in a remote Southwest canyon without mass shootings, homelessness, or deception, just sunlight spilling into the kiva where their chant was no empty ritual, but the way wilderness became sacred, the way each woman became a goddess, the way words became the beat of the drum rising into the stillness of the sky, became the wings of a kettle of hawks yearning for the never summer mountains. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Lovely. Perfect for this time of year and leans into some of those questions that Erin brought up too. a lot to unpack after this session, I think, and a lot to lean into in our dreaming. So is there anyone else? Perhaps Rula?
You're all let's come on, everybody. A poem. We want one more poem from someone. No?
I think it might be you, Rula.
Me?
Yeah.
I haven't prepared anything. So I'll just, because it's easier to reach for this one, that's my one of the older poems. Well, since many of you were sharing poems about the state of the world today, slash dream images, there's one here called Immunity. And it was written during the early stages of lockdown. And it's a mix of dream images and sort of like a response to things that were happening with COVID. Words unmask as parentheses are lifted and expressions spill, untethered, out from a demummified mouth in verse, like grains of icing sugar, scurrying out of a tiny puncture in a plastic bag. No longer sweet, counting, people, cases, perhaps cattle-like in herds, numbers. Out of breath in many ways, suffocating on forbidden air. And dreams, What are lower cases in a world of capitals? Listen, lulling thoughts and questions shall remain unanswered until further notice, while we sit back and witness mass contagion with its metabolic side effects of digesting facts, absorbing prejudice, and assimilating fear. The truth is held hostage in a game of hide and seek, tucked in some layer among the rubble, until it unravels, yawning awake, stretching in stark nakedness, wondering where we were before pausing that video, freezing time. And as nations starve and die, people conjure the phoenix, living in mythopoesis, preparing, watching, waiting vigilantly for a miracle within the fertile ashes. Resistance builds antibodies to misapprehension and immunity to inscrutability of viral news, tweets, and other toxic narratives that can be altered with the swift inflection of perception. So I don't think I've ever read this before, but anyway, that's immunity from simply being.
Wonderful. Perfect.
So would anyone else like to
Bookend.
read anything? No. Okay, well, I guess I want to thank everybody for being here today. Sarah, thank you so much for your wonderfully conducting the second half of the session. Always so warm, so welcoming, lovely smile. Thank you for being here, and we missed you. It's been a while since you've been with us.
Yeah,
And
glad to be back.
yes, it's always wonderful to have you with us. And it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and new faces with us today during Psychreative.